Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for today's session. I know there's quite a few of you joining us from the United States and the Canada and also Central and South America all through the night. It's 2 a.m. here in San Diego, and I believe it's about 10 a.m. where you are, John. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Just 1 minute past 10.
Fantastic.
So we're bright and early here.
We're bright and early here, and we've got a reasonable time for the rest of the world. We normally, many of the times, are suiting the Americas market more than the other rest of the world. But what we've done this year is try to have as many sessions as possible throughout the day so that it benefits everybody in a variety of time zones. So I hope you're all appreciating that, those of you that aren't having to stay up through the night this time. Now, we have a fantastic session planned for you today, but before we do anything whatsoever, can I just ask that you put your hands up to let me know that you can hear me loud and clear and that there's no problems if you just put them up? Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. They've all gone. Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to put your hands down. That's great. I can see that everyone's got their hands up. I'm putting them down now. Super. Now, just a quick bit of housekeeping as always. You should see in your chat box on the right hand side, there's a link to our Facebook group. We love feedback and we'd love you to join our community. We're building quite a big tribe now. We've got about 3,500, 4,000 coaches that we're building there. And we're always going to be releasing some awesome content there. So please feel free to join that. That's facebook.com/WBECS, which is WBECS. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce my very good friend, John Leary Joyce. John is the founder and chief executive of the Academy of Executive Coaching. It's a multi-million-dollar dynamic creative coach training company with a rapidly expanding international network of partners. We've been working with John and the AOEC for many years, and we've just been thrilled by the quality and the feedback that we get from all the coaches that are part of that organization. So now John grew up in a family business. On leaving school, dabbled in a small business ventures before training in education and humanistic psychology. He became a practice partner in the London Personal Growth Centre before taking over as managing director at the Gestalt Therapy Centre, London. He grew the company fourfold in the 10 years he was there. He combines his psychology and business experience. He established an innovative Gestalt consultancy, training and coaching company, evolving into the AOEC, or the Academy of Executive Coaching, in the year 2000. With tens of thousands of practice hours, John has helped so many people find a more fulfilling life, both personally and professionally. He's a Quaker by spiritual belief, and his children and now grandchildren went through the Rudolf Steiner education system. Both of these structures support innovation and independent thinking and being, and we're going to be discussing some of these issues today. So it's my great pleasure to hand over to my good friend, John. Over to you, John.
Thanks very much indeed, Ben. It's great to chat to you and have you actually as a role model for innovation. I've been so impressed at how you've created the WBECS organization. And maybe someday we'll get you on as a case study. And I know the subject today is about innovation and how it's underpinned by structure. And I know that your organization would not exist if it didn't have a solid structure behind it to support the innovation. And of course, I'm aware of all of that structure because I've been engaging with your people. And listening to you present my potted history of my life takes me back to my roots, talking about my family, and especially growing up in the very painful conflict of Northern Ireland. So I'm sure most of you will guess my accent. It's a people, my people torn apart really through a rigidity, a lack of dialogue, a total inability to find creative solutions to differences. Now, we were in the thick of it I was in my early teens. My parents' business was blown up twice. Fortunately, no one was hurt, and they were able to repair it. But my grandparents' shop was completely gutted. And sadly, of course, this sort of action only hardens the rigidity and lack of openness to change. And I experienced that within my family and within the social fabric of the country. And, you know, as I looked back, as I was planning this event and looking back on that, I can see that this late part of my my adolescence was a major factor in entering education and humanistic psychology. I think there was some part of me who was desperately trying to find a way to help people, help my family communicate. And I had to leave Northern Ireland. I went to Scotland, to Glasgow, because I couldn't really engage on a political or even a social level. And what is crystallized for me over the last couple of years is that I'm seeking to help individuals, teams, and organizations. And we're doing that using a structure. Now, there we go. Sorry, the slides moved for me. It's how do we use structure to liberate and not limit creativity and innovation. And this is really the theme that I want to be talking through today, using innovation in a structured way to give us the best results. Now, I'm not a hugely creative person in an artistic way, but I'm endlessly fascinated by how things work, how to get quicker and more efficient ways of getting great results. And I suspect I'm like Ben in that respect, always looking, always searching. And I left university having studied psychology and education, you know, and I found it a real struggle. I had a real difficulty with that structure, the institutional educational system. And I was lucky I got my first job as a woodwork instructor in a residential school for disturbed, glue-sniffing adolescent boys. And I got that job on the back of 3 teachers having resigned from the job in about 14 months. And so it made me think, what on earth were they doing? How come they couldn't stick this job? And what I realized through inquiring further is they had quite rigid structures and beliefs about what woodwork was supposed to be. It was about making furniture. And what they couldn't do was adapt. They couldn't find the creativity to adjust to these aggressive, emotionally manic depressive boys they were trying to teach. So I thought, okay, well, I've got to do something different. I actually was never trained as a woodwork teacher. So in a way that helped enormously, because I had to do, like we do in coaching, I had to really listen to what were they wanting to do. And I scrapped the whole notion of making joints and furniture, and I got them carving. First of all, I got them carving bowls, and later I was encouraging them to copy the primitive masks of Africa in order to find some way of expressing how they felt. Maybe in the next, when we get to the full webinar, I'll find a picture to show you what we achieved. But I was hugely inspired by the educational pioneer Rudolf Steiner, and Ben mentioned that I then later sent my children through that system, because it's a system that really does encourage you to think and to discover for yourself and find your own creativity. So looking back on that period of working as a woodwork instructor, I would say I was coaching them, even though we're talking about 35 years ago when coaching wasn't, you know, ever thought of except outside sport. But now looking back, it was about coaching them to use wood as a creative medium to produce some tangible objects that they could be proud of, and in the process help them build confidence and a real sense of satisfaction in themselves. And those were 3 fantastic years, and I only left because I met my soon-to-be wife, and both she and I were involved in the clinical psychology field, had done our training together, and I moved to London to be with her. Interesting enough, in the last 5 years, I found another rich source to explore this dynamic interaction between structure and creativity, and that's tango. Now, I don't know whether we've anybody from Buenos Aires or people around the world who are involved in tango. It's becoming a huge movement now, and absolutely wonderful. But it's a dance where each step is improvised, and that's important. The dances you see on television are generally choreographed. Sorry, I think there was something there about my webinar. The dance is generally choreographed. Sorry, I'm slightly concerned that I've lost you, Ben. Hello.
We're still here.
Hello.
We're absolutely fine, John. Carry on. Sorry.
It looks as if have I lost my I've lost the screen. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Something in my Outlook folded. Would I see what? Okay, sorry.
No problem. I mean, we can. Yeah, if you just there you go. That's perfect. We can see your screen perfectly now, John.
Is that so?
Yeah,
I'm on. Yep, there we go. Apologies. Technology isn't my strongest point. So the tango is just a wonderful medium. Each step is improvised with your partner, and in relation to the structure, the form of the dance, the music, and the other dancers on the floor. And now, actually, I'm running workshops on leadership and followership using tango as a medium to experience how we need the combination. It's the combination of one foot that's solidly on the floor, grounded. You're grounded with one foot, and the other foot, the other leg, is free to move in order to be expressive. So again, this combination of solidity and freedom. So since I left Northern Ireland, I've spent the last 40 years counseling, mentoring, coaching people of all ages to be creative in their lives, whether they're managing teams or running their businesses. And of course, I've been learning about my own limiting beliefs, how I restrict myself, finding new ways and approaches to face my challenges, finding innovative solutions to problems, as I've grown and established my own companies. Now, it's kind of interesting that this occurred somewhat last year when I was approached by an HRD of a major bank to come up with a structure that would help him mobilize greater innovation in the organization. And this is that really was the catalyst for this whole notion of developing innovation coaching. So this galvanized me into action to pull together all those years of experience and to create a coaching program for them that would serve these needs. And then, coincidentally, Ben called me and asked me to join the WebEx team and share my latest thinking. And so today I offer for you this webinar, Creating Business Growth Through Innovation Coaching. And in the spirit of the topic, I invited a young animator, Gemma Burnett, to help me develop and illustrate a storyline based around a metaphor of innovation and organization, being like plants in a garden. So here is my sequence as I start. And my take on it is that being a manager is like being a gardener. You need to carefully attend to the innovation, the plants that will bear fruit in your garden. And if the gardener is creating a healthy garden, then things will flourish. And in the main webinar, I'll take you through the full story I've created with Gemma. But we have a look at what happens when we neglect the innovation. We cut R&D or learning and development budgets. We end up with our innovation being choked and wilted. And as we get caught up in the structure of the doing, what we're supposed to be doing, and the consequences, well, we start to eat into, we begin to lose the fruits of our innovation, and until there's a wake-up call. There's a crisis, and they're saying, look, we're missing something. And what do? Our objective then is to do something about it. There we go. And actually make a real difference to start creating a space where we can really see those fruits of our efforts grow and develop. Now, we'll in the main webinar, we're going to look in much more depth at how we maintain this dynamic balance between innovation and structure in order to create this healthy organization. And the way I see it is that it's a balance here, as I'm saying, on the one side, the innovation, the growth, and on the other side, the structure, the solidity, the frameworks that we need to pay attention to. And we'll explore in more depth what happens when one innovation, one part of the system takes priority. And we can see that, in graphic detail in the dot-com bubble, when we were rushing after all these fabulous ideas that these young people were creating, and we weren't paying attention to the structure of these companies, these organizations. Could they sustain this level of creativity and imagination? And it gets out of kilter. And you could say that again about the banking collapse. We're looking at how those investment managers were creating structures and very creative accounting practices, but we realize now that they didn't have the structure and the securities and the regulation to really actually contain them and make them work. And then, of course, we know that if you get too much structure, then you get the rigidity of the command and control management practice. With individuals, you get real attention to detail. You discover that leaders are unable to let go and allow their teams to create new directions and new actions because they're trying to control and hold everything. And this is interesting because it's a real, with the rise of the neuroscience stuff, we can see how our brains are structured like this, that in actual fact our right hemisphere is more focused on this innovative creativity, and our right brain is really focused on our the structure and our organization. So when we get to the main webinar, we'll be drawing on, I'll be talking about loads of examples. I've got a wonderful coachee, made me smile when I was thinking about it. We talked about his career progression, and we talked about him ditching his Vespa scooter attitude. He was a bit of a biker, and he felt he was pootling along on his Vespa. And we looked at what would happen if he got onto a Suzuki 500. What would happen to his career? What would he have to be? How would he have to function if he was really firing on all cylinders with all of the power that he had available? So we'll talk further about those sorts of case examples. But primarily the focus of the main webinar will be explaining the step-by-step model that I've evolved in response to this invitation to create it for the local bank, and a model that I've called CREATE. Yeah, very apt. And CREATE, really, we look at the context. When we're engaging, we need to understand where the innovation is happening, what's required, what's the contract, who's involved, what are the resources, the organizational strategy that would support it. So this is a key part of any innovative coaching practice. And then, of course, there is no point in engaging in some innovative venture unless you've got some idea of where you're going. What's the outcome that you're looking for, the results? How do you build on past successes and failures? How do you learn from the results of the past and bring them forward? And how do we do the sort of risk management? How do we know what we know and what we actually don't know? And then, of course, with any activity, with your coaching, with individuals, and within the organizations, you're looking at the explore. And I'll talk a bit in a moment about the creative process that involves being able to engage in an innovative way with your clients. And when we get to the webinar, I'll take you through an example of your own, talk you through it so we can work through this model and through the creative process in the exploration stage. And then the analysis. This is very much the sort of left brain activity, the thinking through the pros and cons, you know, the risks, the consequences, you know, what works, you know, as opposed to the creative side, the explore, which is very much the right side of the brain. And then, of course, once you've done your analysis, we're looking at what are you going to do. You know, coaching is all about where are you going to take this. So it requires the trial and error, the willingness to take the risks, to actually implement the innovation that you've been working on, and to make the engagement. And then finally, any good project would have a period of review, assessing, has it met the results that you've been looking for? How do you measure against expectations? So this is basically the model. You'll see that many of these elements are similar to many other models, like the GROW model, have the same sort of shape. But again, this is focused to support the focus more on innovation. And then what I'll do, as I said, I'll take you through an experience of using this model and using the creative process. And again, there's an acronym then for how do we mobilize creativity in ourselves as a coach? What different mediums, styles, metaphors, brainstorming, all of that great stuff that awakens a different part of ourselves. And then the R here is about being reflective. We know from our Kolb learning cycle that unless we spend time reflecting on our concrete experiences, we really won't embed the learning and take it to the next step. So the creative process requires periods of reflection. And I know that for me, I do my most productive reflection at kind of 4 in the morning when I'm half asleep, when my brain isn't really, my right brain isn't fully engaged, and I'm allowing ideas to percolate through, and I have generally have quite a delightful time in the morning exploring all the possibilities. And then, of course, something that's very important in terms of working with innovation is to allow emotions, because we're talking about passion here. We're talking about awakening in people a desire to move, to get their energy moving. So we've got to engage the emotional side of our being, to understand our reactions on our desires. And advertisers know this very well. All adverts are geared towards getting you engaged in an emotional way in order to buy. And then, of course, unless we're adventurous, unless we're willing to take risks, to step out, to break away from the usual norm, we won't make any progress. It requires the courage to move forward into the unknown and to take the risks. And the T here is kind of interesting. I was struggling a little bit with my acronym because what I wanted to convey here was how we used our physical being. Because it's the way we move through the world. We see this with presenters. Now, unfortunately, you don't have a video of me, but you know, seeing how I move, the way I use my body, I'm moving my hands around as I'm talking, and how important the way we engage, the way we touch each other, the way we feel, how we manage, for instance, our anxiety, how we manage our delight, how we express our passion in our bodies. This is really important to be engaged and connected with in the creative process. And then the intuitive, the unknown. And Ben talked about my Quaker background. Those of you may be familiar, but Quakers believe in finding the spirit within. So it is a very much a reflective and, to an extent, intuitive. It's an experience of the mystery of the universe and allowing that the knowledge to come from somewhere else, whether you call it God or the ether or the spirit. You know, we need to access that. It's a way of bypassing our intellect and finding another part, actually sometimes within our bodies. And having that intuitive sense combined with that, the view, the vision of where we're going, to understand what might be over the horizon, to open their eyes to new possibilities. And we need that. All great leaders create a compelling vision, and that has, to a certain extent, that level of we can create something, we can build something new, a wonderful vision of the future. And then finally, how we use our energy, our vitality, the spontaneity that we've got that comes through our intuition and vision and body and adventure, all of this combined into us. How do we use that? Are we allowing that expression? Are our managers allowing the energetic engagement of their staff, or are they constraining it? Are they channeling the energy? Are they giving it focus? Like I've been saying, are they providing a structure that supports and contains that great energy and desire to move forward? And I believe that coaching in itself is one of the process of holding. We hold the space. We create a safe structure for our clients to delve in all of these different ways, to delve into themselves and find new ways of engaging. So I hope this taster webinar will awaken some of your creative juices, both for you personally and to make you think about your own coaching process with your clients. And you'll come and join us for the full webinar on the 27th of June at 8 o'clock. That's 8 o'clock British Summer Time. So thank you very much for those who are in time zones that make this the middle of the night. Appreciate you joining us for that. And of course, if you want to know anything more about me or about Gemma, who helped to create the animation, please go on to the WebEx page here and get more information. And thank you very much for listening in. And Ben, I don't know whether there's questions coming in or not, whether we've time for it. We're just coming up for the half hour, which I think was my limit.
I think if it's all right, John. Hello, can you hear me okay, John?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think we might have one or two questions, if that's all right with you. Are you okay?
That's great. That's great. I'm just slightly concerned about the time.
No, you were you could have been more perfect. I think you were about 3 seconds before the time was. I mean, that's timing for you. So I think you do that every year. You seem to make exactly perfect timing. So well played. Okay, if you have any questions for John, please do you want to put them in the right hand side in the question box, and I will take just one or two of them. Okay, we've got a question here. Can you please? Oh, this is a technical question. I will answer that in a bit more detail. It's just asking. Please, can you tell me about the recordings? I have to miss May the 20th, and just hoping there will be recordings. Yes, there will be some recordings available, and they are made available in the attendees area. I'm just looking to question. Do we have any other questions coming through? I'm not seeing any questions come through so far. It might just be that we don't have that. Fantastic. And lots of great feedback. Fantastic intro. Thank you so much, John. This was excellent. Great session. Great introduction. Does anyone have any questions?
That's brilliant. I've just answered everybody's questions.
There you go. Good work.
There you go. Magic. Well, we'll have more questions at the end of the full webinar when we get into the whole work a lot more, and people get to explore their own experience of using this structure.
Thank you, John. Thank you. And I've got a lot of comments. Just John, great session. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, great. There's some people trying to get in contact with you, John. So I'll send you through the details of that. But other than that, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and thank you so much for a great session, John. It's been a real pleasure to have you once again, and I'm really looking forward to your full session that you have coming up in June. And I will. Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you for your wonderful feedback as well. Oh, that's one thing. If you can post some as feedback on the Facebook wall, that would be very much appreciated. And there's a huge number of comments there. If you can post some of these on the Facebook wall, that's facebook.com/WBECS. That would be really much appreciated. So anyhow, without further ado, I'm going to call this session to an end. And John, thank you very much for the session again. I really much appreciate it.
Thank you indeed for the platform.
No problem, John. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.